university, drawn by the promise of a quieter life away from the bustling city. Emily, a successful landscape architect, had embraced the move as an opportunity to bring her creative vision to new projects. Their son Jerry, a college junior studying environmental science, was spending the summer at home, working on a local conservation project. The Parkers quickly became known for their warmth and intelligence, fitting seamlessly into the chill vibe of Cedar Grove. Simon's engaging lectures at the university earned him respect, while Emily's stunning garden designs became the talk of the neighborhood. Emily, though initially reluctant about the move, found herself enjoying the tranquility and natural beauty of their new home. It was during a neighborhood block party in late June that Jerry Parker first saw Clara Callahan in a new light. The Callahans were hosting the event, and Henry was, as usual, the center of attention, discussing his latest business ventures. Clara, feeling out of place among the crowd, had retreated to the patio to get some fresh air. Jerry, seeking a break from socializing, happened to wander outside at the same moment. Their eyes met, and Jerry offered Clara a tentative smile. They struck up a conversation about gardening, a topic Clara had recently taken an interest in to fill her lonely days. Jerry, with his knowledge of environmental science, shared tips and suggestions, and a bond began to form. Over the next few weeks, Clara and Jerry found reasons to spend time together. Clara invited Jerry to help with her gardening, and Jerry was glad for the chance to apply his studies practically. As you would or wouldn't expect, their first kiss happened one rainy afternoon in early July. Jerry had come over to discuss a new garden layout, and as they worked, a sudden downpour forced them to seek shelter in the Callahan sunroom. As they stood by the window watching the rain, an unspoken tension filled the air. Clara, feeling a connection she hadn't felt in years, leaned in and kissed Jerry. For Jerry, the kiss was a revelation, a mix of excitement and fear. Despite the complexity of their feelings, they found themselves drawn together, their interactions growing more frequent and intense. They were careful, aware of the risks. Their meetings were discreet, often in Clara's boutique or secluded spots around town. Yet as the summer progressed, maintaining their secret became increasingly difficult. They almost got caught several times. Close calls and near discoveries heightened their anxiety, but the intensity of their emotions kept them coming back. Clara felt a resurgence of joy and passion, and to be honest, this was something totally different from her life with Henry. Jerry, captivated by Clara's sophistication and the thrill of their forbidden relationship, found himself developing genuine feelings and falling deeper and deeper for the older married woman. On August 10th, 2015, Cedar Grove awoke to another blistering summer day. For Henry Callahan, it was a pivotal day. He had this very crucial meeting that could secure his largest deal yet. He left early, leaving Clara in bed, lost in her thoughts. Clara, knowing Henry would be gone all day, sent a text to Jerry, asking him to come over in the afternoon. At this point, Jerry was growing increasingly uncomfortable with his feelings for Clara. He loved the woman, but this love just didn't make any sense at all. Jerry then decided that it was about time he ended this, and saw the message as an opportunity to confront his feelings. He replied, agreeing to meet. The day dragged on for both of them. Clara went through the motions at her boutique, distracted and anxious. Jerry, working on his conservation project, found it hard to focus. At 1:30 p.m., Jerry made his way to the Callahan house, his heart pounding. Clara welcomed him with a nervous smile, leading him to the sunroom where they had first kissed. Jerry began to speak, but Clara, misinterpreting his hesitation, silenced him with a kiss. Despite their misgivings, they gave in to the moment, their need for each other overwhelming their doubts. Meanwhile, across town, Henry Callahan was in his office, his frustration mounting. The numbers for his deal weren't aligning, and he knew he faced a long night of revisions and negotiations. Henry Callahan made a snap decision. He would go home, regroup, and collect his thoughts, and return to the office later to finish up before dinner. At 2:15 p.m., his car pulled into the driveway of their lakeside house in Crestwood. He noticed Jerry Parker's rusty truck parked a little way down the street, but thought nothing of it. Probably helping Clara with some errands, he mused as he unlocked the front door. The house was quiet, but something felt off. A half-empty glass of orange juice sat on the kitchen counter. This was very weird, because Clara didn't even like orange. Then he heard it, a muffled sound coming from upstairs. Frowning, he climbed the stairs, the noise growing louder as he approached the master bedroom. What he saw when he opened the door would be forever seared into his memory. His wife, the woman he had loved for 15 years, was in their bed with Jerry Parker, the 21-year-old neighbor's son, who he never thought was close to her. Henry's shock turned to rage. Before he could think, he lunged forward, shouting and asking what the hell they were doing. Jerry, in a panic, scrambled to get off the bed, knocking over the nightstand in the process. Clara screamed, trying to pull the sheets around herself. Henry's fury propelled him forward, and he grabbed Jerry by the collar, yanking him off the bed. Jerry struggled, gasping, pleaded with Henry that he could explain. But Henry was beyond reason, his fists flying. In the chaos, Jerry's hand found the heavy lamp on the bedside table. Desperation driving him, he swung it wildly. The lamp connected with Henry's head with a sickening thud. Henry staggered, his eyes wide with shock and betrayal, before collapsing to the floor. The room fell into a haunting silence. Clara's scream pierced the quiet as she scrambled to cover herself and process what had just happened. Blood pooled rapidly around Henry's motionless form. Jerry dropped the lamp, his hands trembling, horror and disbelief etched on his face. He looked at Clara, his voice barely a whisper. "What have we done?" Clara, her voice shaking but determined, insisted they hide the body. She told Jerry that she can't let him go to jail. And when she said this, her eyes were wild with fear. Jerry nodded numbly. They quickly dressed, their minds racing with panic and fear. They wrapped Henry's body in a sheet, struggling under its weight as they carried it down the stairs. The task was grueling, each step filled with dread and regret. They finally managed to heave Henry's body into the bed of Jerry's truck, panting from the exertion. Clara drove Henry's car to a nearby parking lot, leaving it there to make it look like he had gone out. She then returned home, where she and Jerry began the grim task of cleaning up the blood. Every swipe of the cloth felt like a betrayal, the scent of bleach mingling with their guilt. The master bedroom, once a sanctuary, now felt like a crime scene. For 2 days, Clara and Jerry avoided each other, the weight of their secret pressing down on them. Clara answered calls from Henry's office, telling his colleagues that he was away on a business trip. But when Henry failed to show up for a critical meeting, his office sent someone to the house to check on him. The HR manager stood at the door, suspicion clouding his eyes as he asked why she hadn't filed a missing person report. Clara, her heart pounding, tried to stay calm, lying that she thought he was on a business trip. To deflect suspicion, she called the police right then and there. The police arrived quickly, their presence adding to the tension. They began investigating and questioning Clara, who struggled to maintain her composure. Meanwhile, Jerry was back at school, consumed by guilt and fear. He had cut off communication with Clara, and they had agreed not to speak until the situation calmed down. Detective Laura Mitchell was assigned to the case. A seasoned investigator with a sharp mind, she immediately sensed something was off. She started with routine questions, but quickly delved deeper. Clara's story was full of holes, and her nervousness was palpable. Mitchell's keen eyes missed nothing, noting every tremor in Clara's voice and every inconsistency in her account. The case was becoming more complex, and the shadows of suspicion grew longer over Cedar Grove. Detective Laura Mitchell began her questioning, keenly observing Clara's every move. She asked Clara about the last time she saw her husband. Clara, trying to sound convincing, claimed he had left for a business trip on Monday morning. When pressed for details about the trip, Clara shook her head, stating that he often didn't mention his destinations, as it was part of his job. Mitchell nodded and made notes, requesting access to Henry's phone records and emails. Clara, feeling trapped, agreed. Over the next few days, the investigation intensified. Mitchell's team found nothing in Henry's phone and email records to indicate a business trip. Neighbors mentioned seeing Jerry's truck at the Callahan house the day Henry disappeared, prompting Mitchell to return to Clara. When questioned about Jerry's truck, Clara lied, saying he was helping with some yard work. Mitchell, skeptical, noted the implausibility of yard work in the middle of a hot July afternoon, but let it slide for the moment, shifting her focus to Jerry Parker. Jerry, struggling with the memory of Henry's lifeless body, was approached by Mitchell at his school. When questioned about his presence at the Callahan house, Jerry repeated Clara's lie about yard work, his voice shaking. Mitchell, sensing his fear, didn't believe him. She suggested that coming clean would be better for him, but Jerry maintained his composure and insisted he knew nothing. Mitchell knew she needed more evidence. She called in forensic teams to the Callahan house, where they discovered traces of blood that had been hastily cleaned. Clara's story began to unravel further. Mitchell noted inconsistencies in Clara's timeline and her increasing anxiety. Despite Clara's